Awesome. We are recording. So we have a guest speaker today, Meghan, and this will cut off at 40 minutes. So I want to give her as much time as possible, and then you guys can ask questions. I was looking, before we dive in with her, I was looking through the business activity trackers. You guys are making progress every single week, which is really exciting to see. You're getting better at tracking like how many invites, how many follow-ups you're doing. And the whole reason behind that, just as a reminder, is so that when you get to the end of 3 months, you can actually, and I did it after 1 month, but you can look at, so when I was a new coach, I invited 100 people a week, 400 people a month for my entire first month. And I had 3 people say yes. So I was like, okay, cool. I can stay consistent with that. And I did that again my second month, 100 new people, 100 new invites a week, 400 a month. And I had 16 people say yes. But the biggest difference was it was from the follow-ups the previous month. So I knew for me, based off my results and the response rates that I was getting, that if I invited 100 people a week consistently, that I would always earn Success Club. And that's going to look different for everyone. Some people, I don't know, Jesse's not on this. Like Jesse can literally invite 35 people a week and earn Success Club 10. And that's Jesse, and that's great. I just knew that I didn't have that. Like, I build relationships differently. I build relationships after people say no instead of the relationship beforehand. And so that's just what works for me. And you guys kind of have to find what works for you. But it's really important that you're tracking and that you know those numbers and that you're using that business activity tracker. Because the one thing I'll see is people are like, oh no, I'm doing all the behaviors. And then when they do the tracker, they're like, wait, I haven't been doing any invites. I've just been in my inbox thinking I'm being productive. So that's why we have those due every Thursday. You guys are doing an incredible job at that. And just in case we don't get to your numbers today, I want to give Meghan as much time as possible. She is a 5-star Diamond Elite coach. She's also a 2-star in a secondary business center, a 2-star in another secondary business center, and a diamond in another business center. And I love that because if you're a newer coach and you don't know this yet, we can have up to 25 additional coach business center #goals every time you get to 2-star diamond coach. So when you have 12 personally sponsored active coaches and a diamond on each leg, then you get to, not only do you get quarterly bonus, but then you get to open up a second business center. And then when that second business center gets to 2-star, you get to open up a third business center. And so up to 25 of those, and you can get quarterly bonuses in all of them. And then the volume that you're putting in the very lowest business center. So for Meghan, we'll just say that her diamond is the newest business center. Everything she places in that, the volume can roll up to the additional business centers that are above it, and you can get paid team bonuses multiple times, which is so incredible. I don't know any other company that allows this or that has it. It's such an incredible part of our compensation plan. So Meghan has 4. Incredible, right? So incredible. I want 25. That's one of my goals. It might take me till I'm 100, but I'm going to let Meghan take over and share with you guys today more about her story. And she has some tips and strategy for you guys as well. And then hopefully at the end, if we'll have some time for questions. Thank you, Meghan.
Hey, you guys, what's up? I always like to ask like where everybody's from. I'm from New Jersey and the weather is absolutely horrible here today. But I feel like everybody's inside, at least, quarantine life. But I will introduce myself because assuming that nobody knows who I am, but in my previous life, if you will, 5 years ago, I was engaged. I was getting ready for my wedding and I was working as an ICU nurse. Beachbody kind of came into my life accidentally and not the way that it comes into most of our lives, I feel like, especially today. But I actually met my coach at my gym. I was trying to get into a routine to lose weight for my wedding. And he was teaching insanity classes. And it was the first time that I was exposed to anything Beachbody. I had no idea that coaching existed. And I really didn't know anything about insanity other than that was that really hard program that made people die, and it was in infomercials, whatever. But I love the workout, and it was the only class that I got excited about going to. And I remember my coach was actually in the program when Max 30 was coming out, and this is kind of when I joined. And he was brand new at the time too. And I remember he was like, you should really do this program. So I was like, okay. And it was like kind of a soft invite. So it was around Christmas time. I told my husband I wanted it, got it off of Amazon, DVDs, horrible, right? And it was, he put me into his group, and it was about 2 months later that I had finished that program. I stuck with it. It was like the only thing that I was able to stick to with working 12-hour shifts. And I was obsessed, literally obsessed. And I was like sharing my workouts without really being a part of anything, just, online. And he was like, you should sign up as a coach. And I was like, okay. And, me and my coach at the time really didn't have, we're close friends now, but at the time we really didn't have a whole lot. He's, I think at least 10 years older than me. He's a guy. We didn't know each other other than, the gym. So it wasn't like this ongoing relationship, if you will, that a lot of us have with a lot of our prospects. And I just did it. Like I went online, I looked up his name, and I signed up with the 21-day fix extreme challenge pack as a coach, not really knowing what the hell I signed up for. But I had no intention on like doing anything with it. But I just remember I respected him. He was credible, and I just trusted him. So he said, this was the best option. You should do this. So I followed directions and did it. And it was at that point that he kind of introduced me to his team page. I was in there on Facebook, but this was before Zoom. It was before pretty much anything. It was, DVD era with phone calls and all that jazz. But if, he would have asked me like, hey, do you want to build a business? I would have been like, no, I'm a nurse. Why would I want to build a business? I have a job. And he just added me to his team page, and that was enough. So 10 months went by that I was a discount coach, minded my own business, but secretly lurking, secretly spying on all of these people who were posting every single day. And you could say I was a horrible challenger in the sense that like I would do everything on the back end, but like I never wanted anybody to know that I was watching them. So I wouldn't like or comment on posts. I wouldn't engage in posts. I wouldn't share anything ever. I wouldn't ask questions. If I wanted to know something, I just figured it out. And I kind of just lurked and stalked and just did my own thing. But what I came to realize was that everybody in these groups was so happy. And it really, even though my coach was, starting to succeed, I watched him hit diamond. I watched him go on this Success Club trip. I never really saw me in him, if that makes sense. But it was a coach in his coach's team page that was my age, who was a nurse, who posted that she was retiring from nursing at like 20 something. And I was like, what the hell is this? And she was paying off an insane amount of student loan debt, which I was drowning in. And to back it up even further, me joining Beachbody, I had like $40,000-$50,000 in student loan debt. I had $20,000-$30,000 in credit card debt. I was living paycheck to paycheck. My fiance or husband, fiance at the time, had to co-sign for me to have my lease because I couldn't get approved on my own. My credit score was like in the 500s. And, my parents aren't wealthy. So we were paying for our wedding completely on our own. We were doing a destination wedding. I was putting everything on my credit cards, whatever space I had. Like I had no money to do this. Right. But at the same point, like I had to. And, to think like if he would have, prejudged me or assumed anything, like to think like, what if he didn't invite me or tell me to do this? Because I had no idea, like nobody had ever invited me on social media. I've never even seen a Beachbody post on social media ever. So it's just so crazy to me. And I'll get into this when I talk about recruiting because it's such like, it's the backbone for me and why I invite so much. But it's just crazy to think of like who I was and what I was going through and how I still just somehow made all of this happen. But it was that post that I saw, just to kind of go back to that, And I was like, if she could do it, like nothing against her, she's lovely. But I was like, there's nothing special about her. Like if she can do that, like why can't I do that? You know? So it was that very moment that I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm comfortable posting here and there. So I'll just share my next program, which I think was Hammer and Chisel. I shared every day. He said, do this. Your first goal is Emerald. I did it. I think my first coach was a friend's boss and my husband. Only child, he's an only child. All my friends were like, nope, no, thank you. So I'm like, I got to figure out a way. He told me my next goal was diamond. So I did that 3 months, boom. And it was kind of, I hit Success Club 10 and I just did that consistently. I got stuck at 1 star for a couple of years actually. And I can get into that if you guys want, but I want to talk about recruiting. But this business has changed my entire life within the first year, and like insert income disclaimer that we all know, but within a year I was able to go from full-time nurse to part-time nurse, from part-time nurse to per diem nurse in the next year. And then when I didn't even realize I was going to have to go through 2 years of infertility, had my son. But once I was pregnant, I knew that I didn't have to go back if I didn't want to. And I was never that person who wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I always wanted to work. But once I got pregnant, I wanted to be home so badly. So to think that like even that, I didn't even know that I wanted so bad, but Beachbody gave me everything and anything that I could have ever have wanted and more. And I'm just going to share my general numbers. I'll share 3, I guess, tips or things that I think are really important in order for you to be a really good recruiter. And then my process. And if I sound like I'm out of breath, it's pregnancy. It's not, nerves or anything, but I feel like I can't breathe. But so my average numbers month to month, I do about Success Club 20 to 30 on any given month. About 8 coaches a month, sometimes less, sometimes more. And I feel like for me, probably about 70% of my coach enrollments are discount coaches or coaches who are open-minded to learning more about coaching. And then I would say 30% are people who are actually looking to come into this as a business. And surprisingly, I have more success in terms of, building leaders and having working coaches with my discount coaches and coaches who are open-minded as opposed to those who want to work. It sounds backwards, but that's just how it's been for me. And even to this day, I track everything that I do, the number of invites, the number of like everything. I'm mostly a pen and paper person, but I do use Streak. And on average per week, life has been very crazy for me. We just moved to, but I invite between usually 50 and 150 people a week to produce those numbers for me. And in terms of how I guess I recruit, I'm not black and white. I kind of do a mix of everything. And I feel like for me, having such a strong background with being a discount coach for so long and like just getting great results, like that's kind of like my wheelhouse in terms of recruitment. But I feel like all humans are different. So all of my invites are different. My process is different. My conversations are different. The way that I do everything with everyone is different because I just try to tailor everything to that individual person. Because sometimes the person who tells you like, I don't want to have anything to do with coaching is going to be your next diamond coach. And the person who tells you that they're going to do everything and they're going to be like the next top 10 coach, they don't do anything when they sign up. So it really just kind of depends. Okay, so to get into my tips, let me just have a sip of water real quick. I think the first tip for me is belief in everything. So belief in the products that they're amazing, right? Like if you don't have that, you're not going to be able to recruit. And you don't have to love everything, but you do have to love and believe like hardcore that some elements of what we do are amazing and like things that people can't live without. The coaching membership, for sure. I know that every coach is different, every leader is different, but I firmly believe that the coach membership, whether somebody wants to actively coach or not, is best for them for a couple of reasons. I feel like one, that's how I joined. And I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for that, because I can tell you the type of person who I was, the type of person who I still kind of am, If somebody were to have slid into my DMs with an invite, I probably would have shut it down, like big time. Whether they were the nicest person on earth, it could have been Melanie Mitro, I would have been like, no, thank you. I don't want to hear anymore. So I just feel like the coaching membership is just it's the best way to let them see for themselves the opportunity, the possibility, the culture, the team, the experience, and it's cheap. It's cheaper, right? Like, who doesn't want to save 25%? And I feel like for me, my retention rates for Shakeology and for Beachbody On Demand and just engagement, everything is just so much more when they have the coach membership. And I feel like they almost feel like they're more a part of the team, even though they're not necessarily actively coaching, as opposed to that client who just gets a challenge pack. So a lot of times when I have a newer coach who is having a hard time enrolling coaches, they don't have that belief that, let's just say, the coaching membership is best, or they don't understand why it's better. So you really have to just think of what you firmly believe and go with that. And you might think that it's better to sign somebody up as a challenger first. I feel like there's really no right or wrong way to do anything. As long as you're passionate about what you do, you're consistent, and it's working for you. The second thing that I think is huge in terms of recruiting is your social media, right? Your storefront. Like, I have to know, like, if I were to go to your social media right now, would I, one, know that you're a coach? Because if I wouldn't, that's a problem, right? Like, that would be like having a cupcake shop and like trying to sell cars. You can't like do one out of the other unless it's known that you do both of those things. You know what I mean? And I do have coaches of mine who like never, I'll do like an audit. They never talk about it. They never do call to actions. They don't share their story. They're not sharing objections. And these are all things that we can do easily without really getting uncomfortable yet, right? I feel like when we post on social media, it's uncomfortable at first, but we can kind of get over that pretty easily. But we should know that you're a coach, and you should be talking about all aspects of coaching and why you love it and why it's so beneficial and why somebody should join you all the time, at least daily. And learning from my own mistakes. I remember in the beginning, it was very easy for me to post about my workout program, right? To just kind of go through the motions, share a clip or what my day was like or my progress photos and things like that. And I would run into somebody at work, and it would be somebody who I didn't know really well. They'd be on night shift, I was on day shift, and they'd be like, hey, that program that you were doing and posting about, it's so awesome. I'm in week 2 and I love it. And I'm like, like, one, I didn't invite them, but 2, how would they know to join me? How would they know that I was the person to connect with, right? So I really had to learn quickly to position myself as the person to go to if they wanted to join. So that was a huge learning curve for me. And talking about objections, because I feel like, one, that's how you build trust. That's how you're going to make your conversations a whole lot easier. Because I would much rather do, let's just say, a post on like pyramid schemes or one of those like things that like we talk about, right? As opposed to having that back end conversation over and over and over, which could be so exhausting. So I feel like when I talk to a lot of my newer coaches, my conversations in converting that interest into a sale are so much easier than theirs, but I'm talking about all of those objections all the time, whether it's in my stories or in my posts. Would I know that you were the person that was, let's just say, going to help me in terms of coaching if I were to go to your social media? So I think this comes from doing like specific calls to action and telling people what you're looking for in terms of having a mentorship. And a lot of times, like, I know for me, like when I say like I'm opening up like 5 spots for a mentorship, it might sound fancy, but all it is me telling someone to log into their Coach Online office to do their training, like in the training section of the Coach Online office. And then it's me working with them one-on-one. It's nothing fancy. It's not a course. It's nothing special, but it is what I say it is. It's a mentorship, you know? So don't feel, if you're new, Don't feel like you have to wait until you create or have something. Your coach mentorship could be you and one other person, because guess what? If they become anything, you better believe that that's going to make a difference in your business and income. What else did I write down? And would I feel like you were going to help me? And that again, so I feel like if you're a newer coach, you can share like testimonials and stories from other coaches. And I would do that all the time when I was newer, because I hadn't really helped anybody yet. And I would pull from my team, and you guys obviously have a rock star team. So I would share like that girl that inspired me. I wrote like a whole thing on her. I asked her, I shared her photo, I shared what she did, what she accomplished. And I said, she inspired me. I remember, going to my first Success Club trip and like kind of meeting like some of the rock stars on the team that I was on. And I was like, would you mind if like we took a picture together, and I would share their story? Or if somebody became Emerald on the team, I would share that recognition, because even though I wasn't sponsoring them, they were still a part of my team, and my team was fostering that kind of success, So I feel like you can use all of that coach momentum the same way that when a rock star on your team gets a really good 10 rounds transformation, we all jump on that and want to share that. You should have the same mentality when it comes to coaching and sharing those wins, no matter how small or how large they are. Because again, guys, like this is your storefront. Like you want people to like, if I join, this is who I want to join. I want to be a part of her. I want to be a part of this team. I want to be a part of this culture, because why the hell would I do this alone when I could be a part of this instead? And now more than ever, I feel like that's so important, because we have so many people that are interested. Like for those of you who are hitting Success Club, how many leads have you been getting? I think I checked this morning and I had like 20 so far for the month. It's like insane. Okay. So, and then my third tip, it's going to be the boring one, right? Going into the vitals. You have to do all of the vitals, but more so inviting. So are you inviting to the business? If let's just say recruiting is your weakness. A lot of times I find with some of my newer girls, they have no problem, again, enrolling those challengers. But when I look at their social media and I look at their trackers and I ask them about their invites, they're having a hard time either talking about coaching because their storefront doesn't back that up, or they are not inviting to coaching specifically. So for me, I invite to both simultaneously, which sounds kind of weird. But my invites are pretty simple. And I ask somebody like, are you interested in learning about my groups or my team? And I'll what's it called? I'll write down like kind of like the basics of like my invite too. And if somebody's interested or they say yes, or they're open to more information, I'll simply ask them like, what are you more interested in? The groups that I host, being a part of my team, or a little bit of both? And you'd be surprised how many people are open to hearing about both. Like, why not? Like if you're going to hear about one, might as well hear about the other, And then I use tools that I created, which I can share really quickly, and I'll share them with Christy when we're done. Let me just pull them up. But I'm a visual person, so I created these on Canva. But it shows, can you guys see my screen? In black and white, why someone would want to be a coach as opposed to a challenger, just in cost, And this is obviously variable depending on where you live. But I also did the same thing for the performance line. And then just the benefits of being a coach versus being a challenger. So these three things I use all the time in my conversations, especially on Instagram. I have them saved on my phone. But I hardly ever get pushback on someone not wanting to sign up as a coach because they see it. Because what do we get all the time when you send out that coach enrollment? They like back out, they freak out, they see the $15 fee, they don't want to pay it. But when they could see this in black and white, that like their shipping is going to be this as a customer versus their member fee, and what they get for being a coach, it's like a no-brainer that you would want to be a coach. So that's what I do, and that's what helps me. And I feel like whenever I have to get to that point of sharing those graphics like save the day every single time for me. Okay. I actually wrote down to share my favorite PD on recruiting. How many of you guys have ever seen $1 Million Listing? Anybody like a junkie with that show? I'm obsessed. Ryan Serhant from the New York one. He's very easy on the eyes as well, but he has a book. It's called Sell It Like Serhant. Obsessed. It was one of the best books on recruiting ever. Very easy read. It's actually quite humorous, but I'm always fascinated with how other entrepreneurs and other business people do their work, because there's so much to learn from them, because I feel like so much of what they do, like, we don't do yet. And it's just always a refreshing perspective. But he came to New York as like a hand model and is like insane. And if you ever have seen the show, or if you have time on your hands to watch Netflix, it's always so fascinating to me to see how they make the experience for their client, or how they pitch certain things, or how they close. It's just so interesting. But that book was very, very, very good. And a lot of my girls loved it too. Okay, so in terms of my inviting process and how I recruit basically from everywhere that I can. So I use Facebook and Instagram, mostly Instagram. I feel like it's probably 80-20% now. Most of my, like, if I'm going to sit down and do my inviting, I'm inviting from people filling out my forms, but it's not like I wake up and I have like 100 forms every single morning. It's not the case at all. But I'll go through those to see if anybody has filled those out from like call to actions that I do in my stories, or any call to action posts that people are engaging on, or I'm actually pulling a list of people who are viewing my stories and names that I haven't seen before, people who I haven't talked to yet, and I'm actually going through those names. As to who I invite, it really depends. So again, I am taking the time to look at these people to see who they are. And it depends on what I say. If, let's just say, somebody had, reached out to me about, I don't know, like, what was that lotion that you were using? And that was a couple of weeks ago. I might feel a little bit more comfortable being like very, to the point in my invite, where if it's somebody who I have no idea who they are, they're following me, I may warm up a little bit, and I might, engage on a couple of posts and then go back, or I may message them first and then invite. It really all depends. I see I have 9 minutes left, so I'm going to move through quick. I'm almost done. But my process is simple. And usually if I'm going to invite somebody from my stories, I feel like it's a lukewarm invite, because they're already following me, right? So they're already interested in what I'm talking about. And I feel like I talk heavily about Beachbody in my stories, so they're obviously like okay with it. But my invite will usually be something like, insert personalization and why I'm messaging them. But again, would you want to learn more about my groups or team? And then why I think it could help them, serve them, be a good fit, or why I think me and them would be a good fit working together. And then once I can get somebody to actually join, my priority for them is to, one, get them to pick a program and commit to it, and then helping them get results. Because I feel like if you can't have those two things happen, you will never get a working coach or a builder coach out of that. Like, those things have to happen. So that's a huge priority for me. If they're having a great time, if they're using their products, if they're consistent, most importantly, if they're engaging, then I can, hey, like, would you want to have your stuff be cheaper? I try to avoid saying like, do you want to like be a working coach? Because that freaks everybody out. But offering to make something cheaper, more affordable, more fun for someone, they're usually pretty open to it. And most of my diamonds that became diamonds last year, I feel like most of them were discount or just open-minded people, as opposed to your classic, worker that comes in guns blazing. But that's kind of the bulk of what I had. So I feel like I've just made it in time to give you guys time. Hopefully I didn't talk too fast. I'll write the name of the book in here too.
Yeah, they were asking for the name of the book. And do you, yeah, she shared that she'd share the graphics, you guys, before she shared them.
I'll send them to you and you can.
Any other questions? If you guys have questions, type them in the chat. A couple things that I love that you said was just such a great reminder is sharing stories from the team. I mean, like, I am sharing coaching stories all the time, and I feel like people think that they have to get to a certain level to share coaching stories instead of sharing them now. So anytime, like, I am typically shouting out coaches that are not even personally sponsored by me for the success they're having in their business. I have one going out today that's about the coach opportunity. Gail is Katie's coach. She's not my coach, but she shared with me her income, and I'm like, I'm sharing your income publicly because that's incredible. And so many people, would show up and work for that. So I love that you said that. And then your invites were like, are you interested in my group or my team, or maybe a little of both? So cool. Such a great way to approach it, because most people are going to start like you started, or the people that you attract are going to start like you start, right? And so I think that was just such a great way to use your story and how you started for it to be about the team and just being part of something and working on your goals, and not necessarily the business right away. And I agree with you. I think I started for the business, and I actually like went in guns blazing. Like I was like very small percentage, right? But most of the people that tell me they're going to do a lot don't do anything. And the ones that get started, even if they say they're going to build a business, but if they start with a program and they really use their Shakeology and get excited about Shakeology, they tend to have better results with the business. So I love all of those things. Is there anything you guys had questions on when it comes to recruiting or growing your network, anything that comes to mind?
And I don't know if you would agree too, but I feel like the small wins with coaching, just like with challenge groups, they're so much more relatable. Like I have such a harder time relating to people, and like, not like I'm like some bigwig or anything, but when I talk to somebody, they're like, well, I don't want to leave my job, or like, I could never leave my job, or like, that's so far. Like where when you're just sharing that, like you're getting a pedicure or you're paying for your cell phone bill, like that's so much more relatable. Just like when you share that transformation of like, 100-pound weight loss compared to look what I was able to do in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like that is gold, you guys. Like share everything, no matter how big or small.
Totally agree. Like, yeah, when I was getting started and I got my first, $70 paycheck, I screenshotted that and posted it. Like it was a post. Here's my banking account. Now, if I share that, people would be like, she's a liar. She typed that up. She photoshopped that. There's no way that's real, right? So I 100% agree with you. It's those little wins, the $100 checks, the $200 checks that so many people are hiding from, when 98% of the country would sign up with them to earn $200 or $300 extra, but they're not sharing it. So no one knows that that's an option for them. They don't know it's a solution.
Totally.
Sarah, I need to get more comfortable sharing about the business side.
Do a post today. It's your challenge.
Totally. Yeah. And for the business side, I just think of it as on your business tracker where it says recognition. That doesn't have to just be challenger recognition. Like think of it as the team. Who on the team did you see post something in Ignite or on their personal page that was inspiring to you? Maybe it was their story of, like I saw Katie Garbett, she posted the other day, another coach on her team went diamond in 37 days. And she's like, can I share this? I'm like, that's not even a question. Go share that. And so she went and shared it to her team page or to her personal profile. And I would go as far as to share it to your personal profile and share it in your stories. So I look at what you guys are sharing, and that's how I know what to, like, the stories to share on my personal profile and in my stories. I'm not just like, I do it all, where sometimes you guys will share your success as a coach in Ignite, which is great. You want to show that for the lurkers. You want to show that for the Megans out there, because they're lurking and they're seeing our stories and our energy in the team page, deciding whether they're going to build or not. So when you're sharing on your personal profiles and in your stories, make sure you're sharing in the team page too, because not all of those people on the team page are seeing your stuff. And if we're all sharing everywhere, I just think of it like, if I'm posting in Ignite, it needs to go on my stories and it needs to go on my profile. If it's a story, right? So yes, Charisse, we feel so honored when others share our stuff. So true. Oh, Cash just messaged about Shakeology and invited her to be a discount coach, and she said yes.
Woohoo.
I love it. Cool. Thank you so much, Meghan.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it was seriously a pleasure. I'm so glad that this worked out and that you can make this time. And congrats on the new baby.
Thank you.
And if you guys have any questions, I'll get the graphics and
Yeah.
I'll get those when I get the recording up. I'll send those over to you guys so you have them. Thanks again, Megan. And you guys just, if you have any questions, we have our message pod. You can ask in there. We're in April. So what is it, the second week of April? So if you're going for Diamond, you need to have enrolled 2 coaches. And if you're behind on enrolling 2 coaches, that's okay. You better get to work and you can get 4 coaches in the next 2 weeks. Hope you're all having a wonderful Monday, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, everyone.